Hold on, let me just make sure they're ready. Alright, they're ready. So I get the distinct, the privilege, the honor of introducing the guest today. But as we all know, we have a tradition here at Successful Thinkers. So Abby and Ayelet, I've been sweating that all day. Woo! I need you to go all the way to the back. And when you get there, let me know what the zip code is today, alright? Because we have such a big back room that I don't know the zip code over there. I first met Abby and Ayelet Gingold at our GNA network meeting. They are wonderful, fabulous people to get to know, to build your relationships with, and to begin to like them. If you haven't talked to them, talk to them. They're great people, wonderful people. So now for this part I have to read because I didn't memorize. So, in the society today, we have a big problem. And that problem is identity theft. How many know a little bit about identity theft? Well, after today, you're going to know a whole lot more about it. So, on that note, because I know you all came to hear me talk.
Yes, we did.
Woo! I love it. So, on that note, I'm going to turn it over to our guest speaker, who are prepaid legal associates. Don't strike me down. Anyways, the great, the wonderful, the young Abby and Ayelet Gingold! Come on down! I'm sorry I don't have music for you today. My secretary got here a little late.
Thank you, Eric, for the great
buddy.
Thanks. I'm his secretary now. That's lovely. I got promoted.
So thank you everybody for being here. My name is Avi. What do you say? Ayelet. No, I'm Avi. Ayelet. And we are both representing basically two big companies, Prepaid Legal and Kroll Background America, which both have been over 3 decades in business. And I'm here to educate you today about what is identity theft. Now, just by show of hands, who here was a victim of identity theft or know anybody else who was affected by that? So it's about 70-75% of the room. And actually when I go into meetings and present, it's about the same number, and it just grows every day. There are a few misconceptions about identity theft, and I'm here to educate you basically on what it is. It's basically, here, just okay. So identity theft is the fastest growing crime in America for those who don't know it. And I'm here basically to show you what is identity theft. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
It's okay if I want to use the mic? What's the cost of identity theft? Some important legislation. So for those who don't know, there are some important laws in effect which are affecting businesses, business owners and executives in businesses. What's the industry response? What are the solutions out there to help us with this situation? And of course, what would be the best answer? So can you guys see the slides? I'll maybe stand here. So what is identity theft? There are 5 common areas of identity theft. So most of us are misled by the media, mainly the financial institutions, to believe that identity theft has to do with credit cards and bank accounts. That's true, but that's less than 23% today of the problem. So actually, we have 5 identities here in America. We have our driver license identity. We have our social security identity. We have our medical identity. We have our character and criminal profiles. And we have our financial identity. So identity theft is not just about credit cards. It's an international crime that, access to an attorney may be necessary. So let's dive into that. So what's driver license identity theft? So if somebody gets hold on your driver license, could be in California, could be in Texas or New York. When they're stopped or arrested for a DUI, they won't give their driver license to the law officer. They will give somebody else. And if kids in college can have fake IDs, don't you think that criminal can do a better job in that? So they will show somebody else, a driver license. And they will be released. And guess what? You may drive one day back home, coming from work, being stopped for a routine traffic, check or whatever. And suddenly the law officer asks you to vacate the vehicle instead outside. Isn't that a sign? So when the police officer checks in the computer, suddenly there is a bench warrant for your arrest because he didn't show up for it, to court on a DUI in Texas. Guess what happens to you at that moment? You're going to jail, right? So they arrest you, and now you need to start proving that it wasn't you who was in Texas and was driving under the influence, right? So actually here, you could see a letter from the state of Colorado which basically says, somebody got that letter which says, the department has discovered that identification information in your file is inconsistent with corresponding records at the Federal Social Security Administration. Before your document can be reviewed, any inconsistencies will need to be corrected. You will need to present legal documents that certify your current legal name, social security number, and date of birth. Have you ever heard someone that, the Social Security Administration changed their social security? They don't do that. So if somebody has been using your social security, that could be a nightmare. An 82-year-old grandmother quit driving during the Truman administration. And in 2001, she suddenly found herself in what describes as a living hell. After one of her neighbors, arrested on drunk driving charges, pretended to be her. And she says, I was told there were warrants for my arrest. I was afraid to answer the phone. And that was published at the AARP Bulletin on February 2004. So those things happen every day. The second area is, of course, social security identity theft. So thieves use your social security identity to basically do many things. First of all, to get employment. So if somebody comes to this country and they cannot get a job, guess what? They need to make a living. They will have to come up with a social security, right? So thieves take the income but don't pay the taxes, leaving you with the bill. Also, wanted criminals use a social security identity so they can get employment without being found. It could be criminals, it could be illegal immigrants, and without taking any position on immigrants, that's something that it's a fact, that happens. Illegal immigrants use a social security to gain employment, and thieves and criminals use a social security for employment, medical, financial, criminals, school, and other purposes. So now you could see that if you are affected by any of these areas, it's not just about your bank account, it's not just about your credit files and so on, it's much more than that. So, and that's kind of funny. A Chicago woman applied for a job at a local Target department store, but she was denied. And the reason was, they told her, you are already working here. And actually, a follow-up investigation revealed that the same social security number used to obtain work at 37 other employers.
Wow.
Right? So that's kind of a clue. If you've been affected by any of these areas of identity theft, there is over 50% chances that it will happen to you again and again and again. Because once someone is trading with your information, they will keep reselling it. Right? So that's important to understand. People need to wake up to this problem. And they are destroying people's credit, social security, benefits, and everything else. medical identity theft. And that's actually the most dangerous and scary part of identity theft than any other else. Because this actually can, cost you your life. And what actually happened is that thieves use your information for insurance benefits. Medicare, Medicaid benefits, or for medical tests. So what actually could happen, your rates could go up or your coverage could be cancelled. You could owe thousands of dollars for procedures you never had. And you could be unable to obtain medical or life insurance or other coverage and or employment because of conditions that you do not have. So actually, if somebody needs to go for a procedure in the hospital and they don't have insurance, they get hold on somebody else, right? So what actually happens is that every time when they go to the doctor to get the treatment, their information goes into your medical record, right? So you may be basically treated for a situation that you don't have. They can exhaust your benefits could be cancelled, but more important than that is that you may go into a procedure and let's say that because of that your blood type was changed in your record. And now they need to give you a blood transfusion. And it's an A type instead of B.
And it actually happened to one of our partners. His brother, some relative of his, went to a hospital for a simple procedure and he got the wrong blood type and he died.
And that happened just recently in Oakland.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, one of our business partners, their cousin died because of an medical identity theft. He went to the hospital for a simple procedure, but he got the wrong blood type. And he died. So those things happen that you may be involved in a car accident. 911 comes on the scene, they need to give you some blood transfusion. They, look at your records, it's a different blood type. So medical identity theft is actually one of the growing areas of identity theft nationwide, and it's the most dangerous one. So if the person who steals your health identity has allergies or specific medical conditions that collide with yours, for instance, when you go in for care, you may experience a dangerous drug interaction or unknowingly be denied potentially life-saving medications or treatment because they will assume the thief's medical information is yours. And actually, what's interesting that, the more technology was introduced into the medical system, the worse the situation became. Because what it says here is as the healthcare system transitions from paper-based to electronic, this crime may become easier to commit and harder to trace. Victims may find it more difficult to recover from medical identity theft as medical errors are disseminated and redisseminated through computer networks and other medical information sharing systems. So you fix it in one place, but now all these networks communicate between them and they contaminate the files again in the other place. Character and criminal identity theft. Thieves mask their criminal activity behind your identity. So a few things could actually happen. You could be arrested. You could be denied employment because of fraudulent criminal records found during routine background checks. Security checkpoints at airport could become a nightmare for you. And you could be denied a passport and be barred from leaving the country. So the October 2005 issue of Kiplingers, it's a personal finance publication, portrayed a different side of identity theft when they devoted an entire section to character and criminal identity theft. So the question that they asked, could losing your wallet end you up in jail? And actually, it can. Financial identity theft. And that's the most common area because people know about this the most because that's what the financial institutions are promoting. Credit card monitoring, the banks are, and what they basically do is something that they do to protect their own money. So, because usually if you say, hey, I have a wrong charge on my credit card, they will reverse that, right? Even though it's getting more difficult to do it these days. But usually we say, that's not my charge, or we send you some kind of paper, you'll sign it, they will waive it. So they put some measures just to protect themselves. They really don't care about you as the consumer. They just care about themselves. So what actually happens is that thieves use your information to open new accounts or to gain access to existing accounts. And remember, that piece of identity theft is less than 23% of the problem. So thieves rob your accounts, they rack up outrageous charges on credit cards and take out new loans and more. They destroy your credit, forcing you to pay higher rates. And you can absolutely be held responsible for the debt incurred by the thieves in your name. So how do you protect yourself? So actually, there is no way to protect yourself from identity theft, and that's important to understand. So all these services out there that they call themselves identity theft protection, you can't prevent identity theft. It will happen, and if you are not a victim, I'm sorry to tell you, you are about to become a victim. Because the way and the rate that it's going, everyone will become a victim sooner or later. So the only question is, how do you mitigate the risk? So first of all, you want to take a note of that. The Federal Trade Commission released a free report. It's a booklet that you can order from the FTC, and it's called Fighting Back Against Identity Theft. You could order it by phone by dialing 877 ID theft, or you could go to a website which is www.consumer.gov/ID theft. And basically when you read this, it will become crystal clear why it is good for the company. And basically we are working a lot with employers and businesses, and Ayelet and myself are certified risk management specialists. So we work with companies and employees to teach them how to defend themselves. So basically, when I give it to a business owner or to a CEO of a company, and they look at that report, it's very clear to them why it's a good idea to offer to their employees something to, defend themselves, and providing them access to legal access, monitoring, and restoration, versus just resolution or reimbursement. So here's an excerpt from the report, and what it says is, the Fair Credit Billing Act establishes procedures for resolving billing errors on your credit card. And that's kind of funny, you'll hear in a moment why. If you send, and that's from the report, if you send your letter so that it reaches the creditor within 60 days, if an identity thief changes the address on your records, on your account, and you did not receive that bill, your dispute letter still must reach the creditors within 60 days. Isn't that absurd? So if you didn't get the bill because a thief changed your billing address, and you are not aware that somebody else opened up, get some charges, you are still liable, and that's the law. Right? It's absurd, right? But laws are not logical, right?
Good
laws
point.
are law, right?
Yeah.
So here's an example. Identity theft victim faces tough bank fines. So in 2003, a family was sued by Homecoming Financial Network, a division of GMAT, for $75,000 plus attorney fees. And what actually happened that in 2001, an ingrosser got hold of a line of credit, switched the address, and they never received the outstanding bills. So Homecoming claimed that the family has been negligent, and they were slow to discover and report identity theft. As such, they were liable for any and all sums attributes to this negligence. So the family attorney said victims who don't have the means to find a good lawyer may be losing out in battles with financial institutions. Because think about that. If Bank of America or Citibank are suing you, do they have more money than you to fight you? And those things happen every day. Right?
Avi,
Yes, sir.
let me add something on that. Something that just happened to my wife.
Gotta be louder. People out here can't hear it.
Something that just recently happened to my wife and I was with Citigroup. We didn't get a bill from them. And, my wife is pretty conscious about, every month she pays them at the same time. Hadn't seen it. So she called them, and somehow the records with Citibank had been switched to electronic statements. So we were no longer getting a mailed statement. We didn't change it.
So weird things are happening, and actually, just to add on that, people say, I shred my bills, I watch my mailbox. It's a long time ago, not about that. Identity theft today is an organized crime. So there are organized groups that are breaking into computer systems, and they get access to that information. So yeah, it's good that you shred your bills and all that stuff, but it's not about that anymore. It's not about watching the credit card at the restaurant when you're handing it out to the waiters. It's much, much more than that. So each year, 7 to 10 million Americans fall prey to identity theft. From massive data brokerage firms to tiny local banks, your identity is irretrievably out there. So did anybody here got a letter from a financial institution that their information was breached? By show of hands. How about the VA, the Veteran Administration? Anybody here got their letter? What about schools? Did anyone go to UCLA? So actually, right, even schools, because when you sign up, when you submit your application to go to school, how do you know what do they do with it? Either if you weren't accepted or even after you finish that school, you don't know. So actually, quite a while ago, 800,000 records of students who applied for UCLA were breached. Right? So it's not about all the stuff that we used to know. So here's something which is very interesting. There is you and there is the database you. And actually what's more important here in America is the database you, not you. Because here's the thing. This is you. This is the database you. So if you ever went to school, you bought a house, you opened up a credit card, right? You've been in the military, you have health insurance. Your information is out there in databases where we do not have any access to that, right? So you could shred all day. It's not about that anymore. And I'll tell you something which is not too comforting. Most of these databases were breached already. So here's something which is quite interesting. Choice Point, 145,000 records were stolen. City Financial, 3.9 million. MasterCard, 40 million records. AOL, 92 million records. Veteran Administration, 26.5 million. Bank of America, 1.2 million. Axiom, 1.2 billion. So isn't that funny that those who supposed to secure and keep your information, like the banks and the financial institutions, are those who are losing it?
Yeah.
Right? So when you get your product from them, when you get your credit card monitoring or any kind of product from them, isn't that kind of, weird that they're losing the information, now they're going to protect you?
Yeah, but at least they're selling their information.
They provide it, but it's more than that. Their databases are breached. So even if they don't provide it and sell it on, hackers go in, right? So I'll wrap it up quickly because we have about 5 minutes, but what I want to show you is what are the solutions out there so you will know how to protect yourself. So I'll kind of, browse quickly through that. And by the way, identity theft are so bold that a couple of years ago they held a conference in Kyiv. So there was a conference for identity thieves. That was published on USA Today.
Wow.
So, first of all, briefly, important legislation. So there are some laws in effect, FACTA, HIPAA, Greenwich, Bliley, and some individual state laws which basically put out the liability on business owners. Because here's the thing, they cannot catch the thieves, so they're going after the easy target, which is the business owners and executives in the companies. So, industry responses, because that's important. So the first solution which is out there is called Reimbursement Policies. And basically that solution, these policies play part, but they only help after you become aware of the theft. Right? And what they do is, they are not proactive, and some ID theft problems cannot be corrected after the fact. Right? Such as arrest record. If you have a felony already, very difficult to fix that. You must pay out of pocket first, up to $25,000 in some instances, and then file a claim. And then hope for an underwriter's approval for reimbursement. This process can take weeks and months and be very frustrating. And usually your insurance agent does not do work for you because they don't know what to do, right? So you carry the full burden of clearing your name, and also reimbursement policies do not pay for the fraudulent losses, yet many things they do. So reimbursement is exactly as what it says. You first go out, you deal with it, and then you apply, you file a claim, and you hope they reimburse. The second service is monitoring services, and that's pretty much what everybody is aware. Monitoring credit activity is the single best method to detect identity theft. Right now, unfortunately, that's the only thing that you can monitor, right? But monitoring helps primarily with financial identity theft because they monitor only the credit bureaus, right? So monitoring services often covers only the account you have with the company offering the service. So if you get something with Citibank, they protect Citibank. If you get something with Bank of America, they usually only monitor Bank of America activity. But what about if you have many different others, right? You have a car loan, you have a mortgage, and other things. So monitoring services do just that. They monitor. They notify you that the nightmare is beginning due to, but there is nothing to help you. The real headache associated with identity theft is the cost of up to 600 hours that may take you to restore your identity. So the Federal Trade Commission, in the report, in the booklet that I mentioned before, they say that if you need to deal with it by yourself, it may take you up to 600 hours to do it yourself. Now, who has here 600 hours to deal with it? And guess what? Can you call the Social Security when you come back from home at night? Can you call DMV at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.? Right? So you have to deal with it during business hours. Who can do that? Then there is another solution which is called resolution services. And usually, resolution services provide phone consultation for you, which is vital, but it is not enough. So usually you get a number 1-800-INDIA. And you call and somebody over there tries to explain to you what you need to do.
You need to sell your 500 products.
Yes. So these services only provide guidance, leaving you to clear your good name. And it takes you an average of 600 hours to work to clear your name, if you ever do. So professionals steal your identities. Doesn't it make sense to have professionals to restore your identities? And the last solution, which is out there, is called restoration services. And restoration services provide tremendous relief to you. Because what it means is that experienced professionals, not you, do the work to clear your name. So while you focus on your family, on your life, and on your business, somebody else goes out and contacts Social Security, goes through all the records of DMV and medical records and financial records and clears out everything which is not yours. Basically delete all the records. So restoration services provide incredible support, but they do not include monitoring services or legal help. Because remember, monitoring is important to be proactive. Particularly 24 hours legal access in the event you are being arrested. So if you've been arrested because of an identity theft, it's not enough to have the resolution and it's not enough to have the monitoring, right? So basically, the best answer that you want to look for yourself is something that answers all the needs. Meaning, you need to have some kind of money. Then you want to have restoration services, meaning somebody will go out, professionals will go out and clean up all the records for you. And then you want to also have access to a live event legal bank, to have access to attorneys in case you've been sued or been arrested, to help you out with all these things. So with that, basically, that concludes my presentation. Maybe if we have a few minutes, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, just on the other side of the
yes, just to mention, thank you, Ayelet. Did everyone get it, that page? So what I did for you is just for you to remember the different 5 areas of identity theft. And on the back side, you see all the different solutions out there, and there is a comparison between them. So that's a great, tool for you to see what's out there, what's the cost, and what it entails.
And in the bottom, you have our signature. If you have any other questions or want some more information emailed to you from the presentation, you can contact us. We'll be happy to be there.
But I'll be happy to take any questions. Yes, please.
This is pretty much new to me, so I'm not speaking as someone who's anyway an expert. But I can remember this ad on TV, maybe it's still running, where a man would drive around in a truck with his, this is my social security number on the side in big numbers, and say, this is how confident I am that what I sell will protect you.
That's pretty funny because that company is actually one of the companies in the table. Their name is LifeLock. And actually that company is quite amazing because if you Google them up, you'll see that the founder of LifeLock was arrested because when he started the company, he stole his father's identity. Then they've been sued by the credit bureaus. And they had some class action lawsuits because of false promises, right? And what they do, you can do for free. All what they do is putting a freeze on your credit records. And you can do that for free by contacting the credit bureau and ask to put a freeze for 90 days. So here's the thing, and it's pretty funny because so what actually happened, how everybody got to know them, because the president, they went out with a campaign where the president of the company put his social security on buses everywhere. He said, this is my social security, and guess what happened to him? He became a victim of identity theft. Because identity theft, now that you understand, it's not only about the credit stuff, right? So what? So you put a lock on the credit bureau, but what about the social security? What about the medical? What about the criminal? You cannot prevent that. Yes.
I noticed that you guys have other services, like legal services, and I just heard a friend got, her information was stolen from a stalker. He's not trying to use her name to get services, but he's actually got her email and knows that she has a family, and I'm not sure if it was through Facebook or what, but he's been harassing her.
So definitely, that's why I understand you need to have access to the legal system. It's not enough to do the monitoring.
A scenario like that would be...
One of the solutions over there provides that.
What happens if this has happened to you already and you're not covered?
So depending on which solution you take. If you take the solution with the legal plan, they basically helps you with that also.
So if you've already got a scenario happening...
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's one thing to have the restoration, it's one different thing to deal with criminal stuff. Right? So to deal with the criminal stuff, you need to have access to lawyers.
Maybe you want to talk to Avi afterwards.
Yeah, I'll be happy, to tell you more about the different solutions, but those things happen. Actually, there is a new type of identity theft now, which is the sixth area, which is called a hybrid identity theft. With all the growing population of Facebook, and I actually, did my, and it's a good idea for you also. I changed my profile in Facebook, so every time when I log in, it asks me from which computer you log in, and it sends me an email. Because it's pretty funny. Do we have a few more minutes?
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah.
So an executive from Microsoft, I think it was at the end of last year, his Facebook account was compromised. So somebody went into his Facebook account, changed the password and logged in, and sent out a message to everybody saying that he got robbed in London. I don't know if anyone heard about that. He got robbed in London, he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any document, and he asked his friends to send him some money. He said, I need $500, and there was a bank account. Now, people started to call him, and he was here. So he couldn't access Facebook. It took them quite a long time to be able to do that, because it's all over email. And it's amazing. So those things happens more and more now. So you really need to be careful with what you do online, because it's much easier where all this social media, everybody knows anything about everybody. Even you know your date of birth. I would highly recommend not to put it there, right? So you don't want to put too much stuff, or at least to limit it to the people that you know. Because if somebody hacks into your account, they now have access to everything. Yes.
So I had a question. When my kids were younger, probably about 1 or 2, their Social Security, everything got stolen. So we contacted Social Security Administration, credit bureaus, and they told us basically there was nothing we could do until their Social Security number came up again for whatever reason. What can you do when it is a Social Security number like that?
So here's the thing. First of all, and people don't know that, kids today are more vulnerable than adults. Because when somebody steals the Social Security of a kid, and they tell it to a friend of mine, they can use it peacefully until they become 18 or 16. And then you realize when you're going to get a driver license, they have already a driver license, or when you want to open up some credit cards or bank account, they already have that, right? So there isn't any solutions out there today for kids except one solution, and we can talk about it also. So there is one solution that basically helps also with kids. Now having access, so first of all, restoration will go out and also restore the kid's identity. That's why it's so important not only to have the monitoring and not only to have the restoration, but to have access to legal. So they can go out and do that and clean the records. Now the company that we can talk about it. Some more questions? Wonderful. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.